public service, and they might be getting some conflicting signals about government and going into public service.
Okay. I think when it comes to young people, especially kids in that junior high age bracket, a whole lot of their impression of government is in law enforcement. So many times the things they see on television is crime shows and stuff like that. They're heavy into media. A lot of times, because first line law enforcement is uniformed enforcement. That's their first sort of contact with government. And I think for the most part, that's a really good thing. If we as law enforcement, again, just like I tell first line supervisors, you can never underestimate the strength of your personal influence. That is especially true for that uniformed officer on the street, to see and sense that every young person has a way of studying police officers. You walk into a restaurant and you sit down, and obviously anytime a uniformed person, whether you're military or elsewise, but especially law enforcement officers, when they walk into a restaurant or a public setting and sit down, you can literally sense that a lot of people look at you and know who you are, or studying you, sizing you up a little bit. As a comment toward that, I think that's a little bit of a sixth sense that is built into us as officers. I can't tell you how many times I've sat with officers and they'll go into a restaurant and somebody will be staring them down, and they haven't seen it, they just know it, and they'll have, and they'll look, oh yeah, there's somebody looking at me, and then they just sense that little internal radar. Well, I think that is also a good thing from the sense that it's a safety thing that's built into us, but I think it's also a thing that we need to be mindful of, that people are very conscious of us, and they study us and they look at us. And I think it is really good officers kind of connect with that, and they have this ability to connect with young people. I think of all of the things that we do as uniformed officers, we don't do enough to connect with young people like what we should. And I think maybe a lot of that's our fault. A lot of it is the demands on the culture. We have so much in our job that is so pressing. Law enforcement is radically different than it was 15 years ago. Our guys are constantly responding to calls, or constantly going into events. They have very little time to be proactive enforcement, and even much less time to be more publicly engaged or youth engaged, Boy Scouts or sporting events and things like that. So I think it is an aspect of law enforcement that we must return to and learn to develop a little bit better, is the connectivity with uniformed officers and young people. I think it's a positive thing, and it does a great deal of goodness for our community.